Today we're going to talk about parabolas, and specifically we're going to talk about roots, zeros, x-intercepts, what they are, and how to find them based on what you're given and the method you're asked to use. Okay, let's go. Okay, so first, the exciting news. Zeros, roots, and x-intercepts all describe the same thing. They are the place on your parabola where the value of f of x is 0. So f of x, of course, is our y. And so f of x is 0 at the x-intercept, right? We have no y movement up or down. So those 2 points, which are the x-intercepts, the place where your parabola intersects the x-axis, are also called the roots of the function, and they are also called the zeros of the function. How you find it depends on what you've been given and what method you've been asked to use. So let's say you have been given this as the definition of your function, and you are asked to find the roots. Okay, so once again, the roots, the zeros, the x-intercept, they are the place where your function equals 0. So we would start by substituting a 0 there. Now, the next thing we do is we get rid of this 2 by dividing both sides by 2, and that 0 is going to absorb that 2, because 0 divided by anything remains 0. And now, the rule of 0 says if I have one thing times another thing equaling 0, that only happens when this thing or this thing equals 0. So my next step is to set them each equal to 0. And my final step would be to solve each of these. I subtract 7 from both sides. I add 3 to both sides. And those are my 2 x-intercepts, roots, zeros. Now, if you've been screaming at the camera this whole time, hey, I could just look at these guys and know if I put a -7 in here, I get a 0, or I put a 3 in here, I get a 0. Yeah, nope, you're absolutely right. I just wanted to do it out this way so that if you have anything less intuitive, like let's say your factor is, and your eyeballs can't quite clever that, you still know the action to take is to set it equal to 0. So this time I've been given my parabola in vertex form. By the way, that previous form was actually called in intercept form, so that gives you your clue right there of how to work. But here we have it in vertex form, but same deal. If we want the roots, zeros, intercepts, it's when this equals 0, so let's start that way. Okay, now again, we're going to just start to work towards solving here. First thing I need to do is move this 64. I'm going to add 64 to both sides. Next step, I need to divide this 4 out of the way. And 64 divided by 4 is, okay, next step, and this is where students make a mistake, so listen up. To get rid of a squared, I square root both sides. When I square root something squared, I just get the thing being squared. But now here's the thing to remember. When I square root 16, I get the positive and the negative version of the square root of 16. That's what's going to give me both of my answers. And then my final step, I will add 1 to both sides. So 1 plus or minus 4, well, how do I do that? Do each one of them. And those are my 2 roots, zeros, x-intercepts. Okay, so now I'm given my equation in standard form. Now, if you are allowed to use a graphing calculator, graphing and using the functions is the fastest way through. So let me show you what that looks like. Okay, so here is my graphing calculator. I'm going to go into my y equals, which is my grapher. And there's my picture. But now here's the gold. See this right there? That says calc, and I access my blue keys by pressing the blue button. So I'm going to go second, calc. Now, I have options here. Look at my second option. It's asking me to find the 0. So I'm going to go down and highlight that and press enter. Now, here are the instructions. Don't forget, there are 2 zeros, so it needs to know which one you want. So first thing it wants is the left bound. So if I'm working with this 0, then all the things that are up here are farther to the left along the x. So I'm already there, and I'll press enter for that. Now it wants the right bound. So I need to get farther to the right, which means I need to go down below it. Now, don't press the down key. This lets you toggle between two different graphs. You want to press the left and right keys because that's moving you left and right on the x-axis. So I'm going to press the right key, and now I'm past my 0, so I press enter. Now it wants a guess, so just move yourself closer to it. It doesn't matter. This doesn't let me get right on top of it. Who cares? I press enter, and it pops out for me that my 0 is the point negative 0.5, comma 0. That is one of my zeros. Now, I'm going to do it again to find the other one. So again, where do I get that menu? That's right, calc, which I access with my blue. I'm going to get 0. Okay, it wants the left bound. So I'm going to get myself over to there. So I'm going to move on my graph until I'm coming back around. There I am. I'll call that my left bound, enter. My right bound, I need to get above that 0. My guess, I'm going to get close to it. And now it pops out again. The 0 is at 4, comma, really, really small number close to 0. Got it? Now, let me show you if you don't have a graphing calculator and you're given your answer in standard form. Well, now it's time to factor. And you all know my favorite factoring method, the X method. If you've not seen the X method before, go check out one of these videos. Meanwhile, I'm going to blaze through this. What goes up top? A times C. That's -8. What goes down here? That's my B, -7. I'm asking myself the question, what multiplies to -8, adds to -7? I always make a factor list. Okay, I can see it's going to be my 1 and 8. And I can see that to add to a -7, my larger number needs to be the negative. Okay, now I'm not done because my x squared in this case had a coefficient. So now I need to finish up by factoring by grouping. So my first term is that same 2x squared. My middle terms, these are the coefficients of my outsides and insides if I were to FOIL. So that's a plus x and a minus 8x. And my last term is my last term there. And you can see that this equation is this equation. I've just expanded my middle terms. Now I'm going to group. If you're not familiar with grouping, check out this video. And you might want to check out my whole factoring playlist. But greatest common factor here is an x. I'm a little smooshed, so I'm going to rewrite this. Greatest common factor here is an x. So I divide that out of both terms. 2x squared divided by x leaves me 2x. X divided by x leaves me plus 1. Greatest common here, if I have a leading negative, I'm going to factor it out as negative. So I'll factor out -4. -8x divided by -4, 2x, -4 divided by -4, plus 1. If those two things aren't the same, you didn't do it right, but they are the same. So now factor that out of both terms. And I'm left with an x from that term, a -4 from that term. Now, if I need to turn this into my zeros, then don't forget equals 0, which means each of them equals 0. Okay, x minus 4 equals 0 means x equals 4. For this one, I'm going to subtract 1 from both sides. I'm going to divide both sides by 2. And x equals same thing we got before. -1/2 and 4. Okay, that is parabolas given to you in intercept form, in vertex form, and in standard form, how you get to the roots, zeros, x-intercepts, and how you can also get there using your graphing calculator. All right, this would be a great time to check out my factoring playlist because you're going to be doing a lot of factoring in this unit. You can also go check out my other videos on parabolas. Consider subscribing to my channel so you know when I put out a new video. And as always, keep on mathing.